Okay, so there's no pressure because I'm between you and lunch. And then also, I'm the first guy with a short talk. So I'm just going to run through very quickly some history of what I've done. Uh, so you mentioned that I met some of you at Montreal for the first time. That was when I was still designing with LTA on the reform of the whole system. Uh, it was amazing because I actually brought the map there and got some validation, some very good insights, and then brought back to Singapore and suddenly became like everything approved. So that was great. And then we launched that, and then I moved on to be a design lead at Innovation Lab at Public Service Division. It is a division where we set up to connect multiple government agencies to solve problems together so that we don't waste resources. You will notice that my theme today is about connecting things together in Singapore. Okay. Then I went on to join Qatar Rail to look at the wayfinding system for the World Cup, not the World Cup specifically, but a metro system designed with the World Cup in mind. And then we revamped the Lucille tram wayfinding system as well as the two maps for the two networks there. And then I went back to Singapore to join Endpoint Singapore Studio to lead them as design lead. Over there, I worked on complex projects like hospitals, which made me realize, wow, there's a whole craziness out there that not many people are talking about. Then I started Lucidus, which is my own consultancy and advisory. So Lucidus, the whole point of starting Lucidus is not to be one more design agency, is to try to take the guesswork out of wayfinding. I hope I can go through that in a bit. Okay, so there are 4 parts to run through super fast in 10 minutes. So the first part I wanted to talk about is because it's a vanity project and I'm just interested in talking about Bangkok because I love the city. So back in 2019, 2020, when we were all stuck at home during the pandemic, I missed Bangkok a lot, and then I decided to do some research on their future of their network, and then I decided to build a system map for them. I never really published this because I don't want to be scolded by Bangkokians. So this is like a world preview, okay? And then I will talk about hubs in Singapore, the paradox of connectivity, and then the framework. Okay, so the first one is the map. So this is the overview of the unified system map that I've tried to put together as an outsider who never lived in Thailand or Bangkok. So there are some reservations and some assumptions that I have made myself. So the first thing I've done, right, is I tried to make the blue line into a square so that it becomes a loop idea as a focal point. So people can use that blue line to interchange with all other lines. And then also, I wanted to celebrate the opening of Bangsi Grand Station, which is the largest station in the whole of Southeast Asia. It connects to future high-speed rail, current commuter rails, and metro. Then I wanted to introduce the ferry service, the canal ferry service that only local people would take. So I felt very local when I was on it. I'm like, oh, I know how to do this. And I really thought it's a super smart way to get away from the Bangkok Jam because it's hidden behind, you won't be able to find it. If you know, you know. So it's actually hidden behind everything, but it's such an important network for the locals. So they actually use that to skip the jam and hop onto the metro. And I found that to be super beautiful, like so un-Singapore. And that's why I wanted to do this, yeah? And then, so this mega train station, right, if you notice this map is not updated, which is also why it's not published, it actually renamed. So it became Krung Tet Apiwat, which means like blessings to Thailand. Funny thing is, when I did this slide, I wanted to show you the way we name things on the map in terms of hubs, right? So when I use the Bangsi Grand Station as an example, I wanted to say, oh, it's great that Thailand finally aligned names. So Bangsi is the original name of the metro station, which is B11. And then the big station is now also called Bangsi. So that was the original talk. Then when I did some more research, I realized the king chose a new name, which you cannot challenge. So it's Krung Thep Apiwat, which, okay, then now dial back to when Bangsi first opened, right? When they opened the station, my first thought was, wow, it's a waste that they didn't call it the Bangkok Central Station, like Tokyo Station, you know, the one that where places start. So when they moved back to Krung Thep, I was like, oh, it's fantastic, but at the same time, like, oh shit, then Bangsi is no longer the same thing. So I don't know how to feel about it, but yes, the king said that, then let's agree. It shall be called Krung Thep Apiwat Central Terminal, okay? And then this example, Asuk and Sukhumvit. So Asuk and Sukhumvit is like a super crazy interchange. It is also where Sukhumvit is the longest road in Thailand. So having a station called that, right, to me is like very significant and very important. And the whole green line actually is called Sukhumvit line. So this is a bit of a challenge that Thailand has to overcome because the MRT is run by one company. BTS is built and operated by another. So there's always a lot of interfacing that they have to deal with. So the name Asok is actually that that place, okay? Then Sukhumvit is that road. So then, as a local, you will kind of know what you're trying to tell me. But for foreigners, it's like, how do you interchange between two stations connected but two different names? So I borrowed this idea from LA. Ironically, LA. When I went there, I was like, why is everything slashed? Like, there's always a slash between names, and I found that to be very, very weird. But I found out it's actually all the intersection. The word was intersection, yes. Intersection between junctions, and that's why they are like Hollywood something, right? So every station is Hollywood on LA, and that was very strange for me. Then here I'm like, oh, actually I can do Asok Sukhumvit as one station name. But this is because I'm obviously not employed by them, so I can do a bit crazier stuff like that. Whether BTS will spend the money to rename their station, whether MRTA will be okay to deal with this is a whole different story. Yeah, okay, and then also, then there's two airports in Bangkok. One is the historical Don Mueang Airport, which is over 100 years old, and then the other one is the newer one that we are all familiar with, which is Suvarnabhumi. So on the actual map, right, is the full name of the airports, right, which is rightly so, but everyone knows BKK and DMK. So I deliberately added that abbreviation, which is aligned with your tickets. Okay, so this is back to what Ilya was trying to say actually. So why I started with the map, right, is because when I was navigating Krung Thep or Bangkok, I think that there's some wayfinding issues that we can iron out across the whole network. But I wanted to start somewhere and help make that point. So using the map, right, would actually highlight, number one, how big the whole system is, and then how fragmented it is currently. And then using these unique icons that I've took the liberty to design for each of these networks, it can actually be then extracted onto actual wayfinding systems. So the signs you can expect, right, to see, for example, MRT pointing you to a particular line will be that shape, and then the airport rail line will be a triangle, the BTS will be is rectangular, and then the BRT will be a circle. So these are all extracted shapes from existing systems, and I wanted to simplify them using typography. Okay? Oh, speaking of typography, sorry, I missed out. As a designer, right, as a new designer, we often look for the simplest way to present information. So I think as foreigners, we will just be like we will agree that sans serif fonts are the way to do for wayfinding. And then as a new Thai reader, and when I tried to learn Thai, sans serif and serif is literally two sets of fonts. So you can learn Thai for 10 years in the serif, which is all this curl with the circle. But when you try to read you can read the serif font. This is what they teach you in school. But when you go onto the streets, you may see the sans serif, and you will be completely lost, even though you know how to read Thai. So I've decided to stick to the original script with a more simple form, and that's how this font came about. Okay, now quickly jump to hubs in Singapore. Okay, so yesterday we talked about how in Singapore it's quite different. Everything is a hub, every station is a hub. And I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of expand the idea of hubs, because it's not just transport for Singapore. We are super small. To give some context, I'm sure many of you know where Singapore is, but I wanted to show the size of Singapore. So you see that red dot, right? Singapore is literally covered. Like the whole country is covered by that one red dot. So that's how small we are, and we squeeze 6 million people in there. And yeah, hence our nickname is the little red dot, because you can never find us on the map. Yeah, and because of this space constraint, we are actually being forced to bring things together into one hub. And therefore, we have, you will see hubs that has sports halls, transport and retail in one place, or a polyclinic, which is a centralized medical system, or government services in one place. So I'll show you 3 examples today. Oh yeah, okay. So these are official terms that you will understand, but these are terms that people will understand in Singapore, right? So bus interchange, hawker center, community club, these are very used places that we grew up with, but they are now trying to merge them as one commodity. Okay, before I dive into that, I want to show you how traditional bus interchange looks like. It is open air, it's usually very crowded, and there's a lot of barriers. But we did update them recently. Now they are air-conditioned, wider walkways, and updated signs. Okay, so this integrated design is becoming more common in Singapore. Okay, so I will show you 3 examples very quickly. In the outside of the Central, because these are all efforts to try to decentralize Singapore. So we have oversubscribed train lines already. So to make people travel, ironically, like don't use the train so much, we make them work nearer to their homes. And therefore, these kind of places are born. Okay? The first place is North Point City. This is a whole development that grew from just this block, which is one simple mall, meaning when I was a child, this is a very small mall. And then now it's like a full development with residential on top and a public library, a full-scale public library inside, a service SG, which is where I used to look at, where you can go into one place and you have about 400 to 600 government services in one place. So for example, if an elderly person were to go there and they need help with some paperwork, then if the lady who is serving her sees that her national identity card is broken or torn, they can immediately do, okay, I will make a new card for you because it's the same place. We want the whole Singapore to see the government as one entity. Because there used to be this scandal where you throw litter on the floor and it falls outside of my boundary and that's not my problem. So that became like a whole refocus of how we deal with government services there. Yeah, and that's what Service SG is. And then there's a community club where you can go and learn stuff and meet people like us. You know, we could meet at a community club. And then there's also the bus interchange and a connection to the MRT station. So this is one example of a hub that we have in Singapore. Okay, and this is the bus interchange entrance. So it's quite surreal to see. Growing up, it was not like that. So I was very happy to see this development done because you can see the mall entrance and then suddenly it's a huge entrance to a bus depot and all the buses are hidden inside. So that's quite amazing. And then above are where people live. This is Punggol Digital District. It's a new, completely reimagined place. Used to be a very swampy, forgotten part of Singapore. But what they have done is that they have brought in the university campus, so Singapore Institute of Technology, alongside a business park that focuses on technology as well. So there's also industrial collaboration, and they deliberately design it that way. Also, there's a mall for the people living nearby, the bus interchange also integrated, and then the train station at the bottom. So yeah, this is quite exciting. So that this concourse, right, is immediately coming out from the train station. You'll be met with the decision point across the university, the business park, and the mall. And then this is another entrance where you can see it's integrated into the landscape. Okay, and then finally our Tampines Hub. The name is really called our Tampines Hub. I don't know why, but there's a stadium in there. There's a swimming complex, again, the same thing, and then a hawker center. So yeah, you can see, right, Singapore, we really try to squeeze everything together as much as we can because we really have not much space, okay? And yeah, this is the inside and that's the stadium. It's not a massive stadium, like Real Madrid wouldn't play here, but it's enough to gather the people for a small celebration once a while, yeah? Okay, and then why do I want to talk about the paradox of connectivity? Because I believe that planning impacts wayfinding. So while we can have very ambitious integration plan, right, it can become very stressful for users as a result. So North Point City, which I sang praises about just now, like, you know, it's so amazing. We actually got everything to work together. And we actually got the developer to build a bus interchange for us. But instead, right, if you go in, it's actually quite a nightmare. This place was, the photo was taken at a huge linkway from the metro station, and you would think that the bus and metro would be very well connected, right? Logically, you'll be like, oh, transfer should be the most important thing. But as a retail person, the most important thing should be the shops. So would you believe that this entrance next to the bakery is actually where the bus interchange is? And there are no proper signs except for a floor sticker. Yeah, which I'm not saying that floor stickers are wrong. I'm just saying that without proper planning, floor stickers are often this. Yeah, I have this, every time I see a floor sticker, I will think of this meme. Because I think it's a very band-aid solution to planning issues, yeah, alongside paper signs. Yeah, so it's not just me. North Point City is known to be the most confusing mall in Singapore, and people hate it. So like, there was one day my mom came home from North Point, and then I was like, oh, how is it? How was the mall? She's like, oh, it's very crowded. It's really very, very packed. Even on a weekday, it's very strange. Then she's like, do you know why? Then she said, she told me this. She said, because everyone is trapped in the mall and they couldn't find their way out. So that's why it's always crowded. Yeah, and then on top of that, you can see paper signs pointing you to the bus interchange, which is the most ironic thing because you design an integrated hub and yet you forgot to point to the modes. So yeah, Singapore is not perfect, okay? And then we are building even more of these hubs, okay? We have Bishan, which is a center point of Singapore, Toa Payoh, which is a very iconic place in Singapore because it is where the whole housing redevelopment began, like the first model town of Singapore. So these changes are very important to me personally. Bishan, okay, so this is what, I think we talked about this very briefly yesterday, how wayfinding in a space that's open like that, you could rely on Google Maps, you can rely on street wayfinding. You know, everything is spread out. But with that new redevelopment, right, everything is actually consolidated into one place. So the urban wayfinding becomes indoor wayfinding. And then without care, it can really be very, very stressful in a space. Yeah? Similar to Toa Payoh, you can see the library is there, the polyclinic is there. And these are places that people grew up with. So we kind of just know that they are landmarks. Standalone building, the library is easy to find. And then, in fact, we will say meet at the library, and everybody will know where's Toa Payoh Library. But now, if you were to integrate them, everything is in one place. How do people find inside the place? How do you find the library inside? And this is something that I really feel very strongly about, that we need to talk, especially at the construction, no, before, at the design phase. Yeah? And therefore, so what can we do about that? I want to highlight that the ineffective signs are not always a problem. I think it's very easy for project teams, architects, users actually, everyone, stakeholders or senior management to assume that if somebody is lost, they will point to the nearest sign and say that the sign is the problem. And then let's add more signs, paper signs or floor stickers, right? But I want to highlight that it is a symptom of a planning issue. Yeah. So what can we do about that? We need to talk about wayfinding before we start the sign design. So this is why I want to start this Lucidus framework, which is a new way to talk about wayfinding clarity. I'm hoping to use this as a conversation piece to connect with the people who are delivering the system and who are designing and planning the places. I am hoping to use that as a communication bridge between the architects and the designers. Because what I've observed while I was at Endpoint, right, especially, is that the designers can come out with the best design, but the client will always be doubting the consultants. And then me backing up my team will just be me defending my team. And I realized that conversation is not very fruitful because as consultants, you are just trying to get built, you want to build it. And then as architects, you just don't want signs, you hate signs. And then as the stakeholders, you are just really scared to sign off because you work for the government. So it's a non-stop cycle that wastes people's time and money. So that's why the framework is something that I want to try. And then finally, I want to reduce the confusion and the rework using the guided decision points. So along the journey, I'm hoping to use a checklist of sorts to help people understand that they have arrived at a point. Then now it's time to move on to the next point. Then we talk about design. Okay? And then now I'm piloting this framework using some of my selected clients, depending on the project type. But I do have some collaboration opportunities for 2026. So let me know if you want. And then now is the most exciting part. So if you can take out your phone if you want, you can join the blind box. So anyone use PopMart? Very popular, right? I assume. So anyway, there's no gift. It's just my Instagram website and LinkedIn. So it depends on your favorite color. You will connect with me at different places, okay? And yeah, 10 minutes. That's all. Thank you.